Directly behind me, right here on the floor. Let me grab it. So Evo came all the way from the living room with just a voice command. So if you guys are not familiar with this robot, this is another robot I was talking about before. You guys have seen me do the unboxing.
And just picked up. Is there a new task for me?
No, there's not a new task for you. You have successfully completed your task, and your task was to find your way to the studio, which you did very well.
Copy that mission completed.
I did make it to the studio well, and I'm happy I did a good job.
Yes, you did a great job. All right, so you take a break, and Louis, if you have anything else to say real quick, just go ahead and get it out so we can get right into this demo, Louis, with this Set.a.light software.
Okay, I'm listening. Go right ahead with the demo.
All right, I'm gonna ship it fast. Chat, we're about to walk through this light software end-to-end. Setup, connection, core controls, and a quick before and after so you can actually see the value, not just hear about it.
Exactly, buddy. Exactly. All right. So you take a break. You take a break as well. And we're going to go ahead and switch over to our teaching mode here so you guys can kind of see what's going on. Also, let me also grab this little chat bubble here because I think it is slightly out of alignment. There we go. All right. So I set this scene up. Primarily, guys, so you guys would really be able to see how this software works. So right now, what you're looking at is the landing page for the software. Now, right here are some of your previous files. So if you've already set up previous, scenes, you'll find those accessible right here. You also have templates. So if you do have some templates set up, you can also find those here as well. You have two presets here. The first one is going to be indoors, and the second one is going to be outdoors. So we're going to start off with the indoor preset, just so you guys can get an idea of what this is like. All right, so this is similar to how my old studio was set up. It was basically a bunch of, space with modifiers, lights, backdrops, similar to the backdrops that you see here in the studio right now. So in this scene that you guys are looking at, I'm going to kind of walk you through what you're looking at, right? So at the top here, you guys can see we have our file button, and you can come in here and you can pick a new project, open a project, you can save a project. You have your recent files here as well. You can import user data. There's a lot of information there. You also have this edit tab where you can go in and clear a set. You can completely remove everything from the set. You can load reference images. So if you have like a reference image that you want to be able to show in your scene, you can do that here as well. Okay, so really, really simple setup, but very powerful at the same time. You also have your app management, and this is where you can come in and set your distance or the size of your studio. You can set your language. You can set your metrics or measurements. You can also set turn on or off grid lines, all of those things. You also have some other things. We're going to come back to this at a later date, but you have things on like your lighting. You also have, things on your project settings, your library settings. All of those things are accessible right here under this tab. Okay. So the next thing you can see is this main window here is going to be your work area. Now you can switch between this main window and the smaller window over here. There's two little buttons right here. You can just click those and that'll switch back and forth between, your main subject or the full studio setup. Now this is set up as if I was going to be doing photography with a model or something like that, right? So yeah, it's for the most part, it's simple enough, for most people to get their heads, wrap their heads around it. And I want to show you guys some different lights. Now I know a lot of people are not going to be familiar with these lights. So over time, guys, you will be very, very familiar with these because we'll spend a lot of time working on these lights and, you guys getting to experience these as much as possible. All right, so let me just adjust this other little camera here real quick, just so we got everything lined up. All right, so starting out over here on this side, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up just a little bit so you guys can see this a little bit better. All right, so I don't wanna click on that light yet. I just wanna make this a little bit taller. And let me grab this and drag this up a little bit. There you go. All right, so you guys can see here we have our model selections. We also have all of our equipment over on this side. We have our camera settings, all of those things on one side of the screen, and you can kind of scroll through and you'll see all of the different presets related to it. Now, actually, let me move my camera because it's probably blocking what you guys can see. So let me do that real quick here. And let me grab this guy and move out of the way so you guys can now see this panel I was just describing. So really simply, you can, kind of scroll through here and you can pick, different things related to your scene or whatever it is you have highlighted. Now, right now I have one of the lights highlighted, as you guys can see here. But if I came over and say, for instance, I clicked on the model, then all of those settings would change. Now everything is going to be related to the model, whether it's their face, their makeup, their wardrobe, or whatever the case it is, body position, all of those things are controllable from this side over here. Okay. Now, if we look down here, we have our models that we can select from, and there's quite a few different models, and you can modify these models as well. So you can change their hair, their skin color, you can change their body dimensions, all kind of stuff like that, which really, really comes in handy in a lot of different ways. All right. So let me move this camera here, maybe up here somewhere, so it's sort of out of the way so you guys can see everything. All right, so real simple, guys. So if I like the model that we're working with, I can just leave that model. But if I decided I wanted to use a different model, all I have to do is double click on that model like so, and then that would bring that model in. As you guys see, now we brought a second model into the scene, and then I can reposition that model pretty much wherever I'd want her to be as well. Hopefully you guys can see this pretty well, but we would just highlight that model as an example. I could highlight her, and now I could drag her over, to a different position, or even put her next to the other model or behind the other model or whatever it is. So this is just to give you an idea of how this software works. The fact that, you have a bunch of different props that you can use, different type of lights and modifiers, different types of cameras that you can set up for the scenes. So all of those things are going to be variables when it comes to this. Okay. So we have our models right here. If we click on the next tab over, we have our lights. So we have different lights that we can add to the scene. We also have the option of being able to pop this out. So I can just click right here, and this will create a larger panel, and I can kind of move this panel around wherever I want to. And then I can still, go through here and select the different lights. If I pick any one of these lights, I can just drop it right into the scene. So yeah, it has a lot of really cool functionality as far as this goes. Okay. Now, like I said, as we go forward in the future, we're going to do a lot of in-depth detailed work with these different things. Now, we also have equipment that you can see here. So we have things like different cameras, we have different backdrops, we have different reflectors and modifiers. All of those things you're going to find here as well. And then we also have assets. Now, assets is really cool because with the assets, you have like windows, you have scrims, you have different shapes, you have a lot of different things that you're going to be able to utilize in your scene. You have tables, chairs, couches. All of those different type of things, are going to be accessible to you within this app as well. So, overall, guys, this is a very, very powerful app, when it comes to creating. So like, for instance, if we wanted to add a chair to this scene, I could just, drag that chair into the scene. And, we could reposition it, put it pretty much wherever we want it to go. Now, this is running a little slow, primarily because I am live streaming from the same computer that I'm also running this app off of. Okay. So that's something that you have to take into consideration. This is much snappier, guys. This is going to be much snappier when you're using it, as a standalone type of setup. But as you guys can see here, I can move this chair in and out into different spaces. I can also, let's go ahead and orbit this around so I can rotate this around so you guys can see it a little bit better. So we're going to bring this whole scene around and hopefully you guys can see it better. There we go. So it's a little choppy right now because, again, like I said, my streaming software is taking up a lot of resources. So, just, bear that in mind. Okay, let me see if I can fix this other camera. So I'm going to close one of the cameras here on the vertical stream real quick here. And I'm just going to close that camera. On this one, we're going to close this camera.
Straight back into the demo flow. Drag an asset in.
Yes, Louis, you're correct. You're correct. So let me go ahead and bring in another display capture for this scene. And let me drag this out. And let's choose the right camera. All right, that should fix that problem. So let's bring that down a little bit so you guys can see it. All right, that's just what we're going to do for now because it's a lot easier so you guys can see it and you're not just looking at the top of my head. So we're just going to work from there. All right, so as you can see, again, I was able to bring in another asset here to the scene. So I'm going to try to drag this down a little bit just so you guys can see this a little bit better. And I think it's my mouse is just not responding the way I want it to. But anyway, you should be able to grab this and just drag this down a little bit smaller like I'm doing here. And then you can, rotate this around. So you can basically right click anywhere in the scene if you have the orbit turned on, and then you can just kind of rotate your scene around a little bit so you can kind of see it a little bit better. But you can see it from multiple directions. You can see it from a God's view, from above. You can set this up where you're watching it from a side perspective, all of those different ways you can look at this software, guys. So regardless of what light you're using, but like I said, in the future live stream, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you guys how to set up a complete studio. So we're going to bring in like a desk. Let me see if I can find a desk real quick here, just so you guys have an idea what I'm talking about. Let me go over to assets and we're looking for a desk similar to mine. Well, let's get two things. Let's get a chair. And we're just going to throw this chair in there. All right, so there's our chair. And we don't need the other chair. So this chair is just, for me just to show you guys how easy it is to bring things in. So we're going to select that chair and just go ahead and hit delete and remove that. And then we're going to scroll down a little bit here and I'm going to find a desk just to give you guys a working starting point. So this is similar to my desk. So we're going to just grab that guy. So let's bring this desk in. There we go. So there's our desk. And like I said, in the future streams, I'll show you guys, I'll probably do a lot of this in advance. It'll be easier for me to set everything up so I can really just kind of show you this is the desk. These are the side desks. This is where the chair would go and so on, and then place out all the cameras. But I wanted you guys to see this software for the first time just to give you a working idea of how you could utilize something like this. So I think a lot of you who are content creators, who are inspiring content creators, live streamers, or whatever the case it may be, this is going to be a very, very powerful tool for me to help you get your studios set up, choose your cameras, your lights, your modifiers, your microphone, all that kind of jazz. So yeah, I'm very excited about all of this, guys. All right. So